Welcome, welcome, welcome. We're back with another episode of Cut Ups. This is covering the second half of the Michigan versus Bowling Green 31-6 victory. We're here to talk through a handful of plays, think about 10 plays, and any questions you guys have, walking through the play analysis. If you missed part one, that came on Monday night. Today is Wednesday night. This week's flying by. But yeah, here to talk through second half. We got Antoine Johnson with some big comments here early. Let's see if I can sit up straight and try to address these. I heard the rumor that Cornelius Johnson wasn't happy with him getting targeted, I guess, for touchdown passes. I don't know if it's true. Certainly noticed his standoff attitude. I've noticed that as well. If you go back and watch a couple of the episodes with Trevor, I paid attention to him on the sideline. There were a couple of things that I saw throughout the games that I thought he was getting frustrated with how little scoring opportunities he was get, or how few scoring opportunities. So I think there's frustration, and I think Trevor and I had talked about the competitive juices flowing, right? So I think there's some truth to that. Now, how public was that? How much did that influence behavior? Forcing the ball to him, if JJ felt that or anything like that, who knows, right? But everyone wants to score, right? Everyone wants to put that film on tape, get in the end zone. So I get it. How much should it affect your actual play, right? It shouldn't really affect your play, right? You do all the right things, and eventually the ball will come to you, and you'll get scoring opportunities. But it's a good question. It's a fair question. Do you think this could be affecting JJ's play? Antoine continues by thinking he has to go to him even when he's not open, or maybe certain other players, instead of just playing within the offense. I think that's especially during non-conference play, right? When you're looking to pad a touchdown here and there, you want everyone to feel involved. You want everyone to feel happy and cohesive in that unit, right? If there's any trouble in the locker room, then guys aren't going to be blocking as much and things like that, right? So do I think it had an effect? Maybe, right? Only JJ and maybe the coaching staff and some of the players actually know that. I think that's a valid theory. There's really no way of knowing. But I think, truthfully, all these guys want to score, right? Especially these guys who are looking to go to the NFL. That's how you get in the league, by getting in the end zone, showing that tape, getting the touches, getting those opportunities. And in all seriousness, right, it's been Roman Wilson. He's been the standout, not Cornelius Johnson. So I think Cornelius Johnson will get his time. It just takes patience, right? And I think patience can be tough after a long offseason, especially after a big Ohio State game, right? I think that can be tough. So here we go. P. Maximus, why do we have our 6'5" starting D end out there in our receiving kickoff team? Good hands team. Really? That's also a valid question. I think Michigan probably learned something from that Bowling Green game, right? Where, listen, if they're going to start pooching this, you got to have potential ball carriers back there, right? Have a Mullings or have someone else as those up back positions. I think in general, you want some of your best blockers, right? You want some of your best blockers out there, and they like the athleticism and speed that Braden McGregor probably has out there on that unit. Special teams are important, right? So anyone who says like, oh, why do we have our best players out there? You had Jabril Peppers, right? You had Desmond Howard, you had Charles Woodson. You can change a game by having your best players out there. And I think they probably think Braden McGregor is one of their best 11 for a quick developing blocking play like that. So I get it. I get them having them out there. But you're right. Now that that's on film, I don't think that that's going to be the last game that you see teams start to pooch it up to some of those up backs. I think it's a great play, great opportunity to create an easy turnover. And if Michigan doesn't learn from that, then they might get caught. So I don't think it's an unfair question, Maximus, to why he is there, because that is an important aspect of being in that position of the field. You put yourself in the opportunity for that, right? So yeah, I think having more of a tight end based guy or something like that is more wise, and also just fair catch it, right? Fair catch the ball. So I think there's improvements there for sure. But okay, let's dive into this. I covered this play on the last iteration, but because I think this is the first play of the second half that I have in my film, let me go back real quick. It's one of the first, but let's just start here because it's fun. All right, let me switch the screen up, make sure the screen is bigger and my face is smaller. I like this layout more. Okay, let me know if anything's choppy for you guys. I know there's some YouTube comments about like, oh, it's choppy, whatever, like that. Everything should be good here. Let me make sure, get the colors here. Okay, so I won't break down this play too much because again, I did it on the last play, but you got to give the mutant his time to shine. All right, this is just Braden McGregor doing an excellent job. Braden McGregor, sorry, he's stuck in my head. Chris Jenkins doing just an excellent job recognizing the play, right? You have to notice when you're at this point, right? Wow, that was really easy getting past that offensive guard, right? And then he realizes, wait a minute, there's something happening here, and questions where the play is going, hops up, grabs it, and boom, down to the 1 yard line. Only thing missing from this is a touchdown. But I pointed this out in the last one. You sometimes say athleticism is like getting to the quarterback or speed or strength, agility, but the ability here for him to adjust his stride length, pause on that left foot, and then jump up, load up, and grab the ball is a super athletic play. So really, really good play from him. And also, I didn't mention this last time. I'll get to your question after this one, Antoine. I didn't get to this last time, but Jalen Harrell, right? Probably most underrated player on Michigan's football team this year. He gets an excellent jump off of this, and this is exceptional speed from him. I don't think we've ever really said he has great speed, but this is a really good pass rush, even though it's a screen pass, right? So this tackle 76 there for Bowling Green, he just needs to hold him up a little bit, and he can barely get that on Jalen Harrell. So that's a good rush, right? It's a really good rush, able to maybe speed up this play a little bit, doesn't give time for the quarterback to think at all, and also hits his arm right here. You can see, boom, hits that elbow. So that's really good play from him. I don't think I gave him enough credit on the last one. So really good job, sets up Michigan right around the goal line here. And it's 14-6 right in the third quarter. And that play from Chris Jenkins is kind of what broke this game open. Okay, before we get to this play, Antoine, question: do you think as a media journalist and asking questions that you can inject into the conscious mind of the coaches to address problems that you may see, and do they address them? Let me read that one more time. Do you think as a media journalist and asking questions that you can inject into the conscious mind of the coaches to address problems that you may see, and do they address them? To me, I would say 95% of the time, any of the questions that you're asking from a media perspective, 95% of the time, the coach has already gone through that and addressed that matter. So I don't think anything that's evident to the media or to journalists is anything that is necessarily new to the coaching staff. So, yeah, so I get what you're saying, where it's like that fact that Cornelius Johnson maybe isn't happy or not getting targeted enough, things like that. I bet there's I feel like the coaches are smart enough to also have that thought. That's kind of where I'm at, where any question that comes up like that is likely something that, if there are any legs to it, has already been either considered or addressed. Now, it may accelerate that, right? Because then it becomes a story and maybe they do have to address it quicker or anything like that. But I'd say, again, 95% of the time, those things have already happened. Those things, and this is, Brian is putting it much shorter and much more elegantly than I have. If we can see it, the coaches saw it. And I think that's generally what I'm trying to get at here. The commentators on the Bowling Green game kept mentioning the open space over the middle that our defense was allowing. Is that our linebackers or safeties? Go back to the first. There was a play from Houseman that addressed that. It was like a 3rd and 15 or so that I think Houseman had a rough game in coverage. I think that's mainly it. So I don't think it's the safeties as much as the linebackers this game, but it wasn't that open. I don't think there was a ton of opportunities for that. I think there were a couple plays, and I do think it was more linebacker play than anything else. Okay, 1st and goal here. This is just giving some credit here to Max Bredesen of leading the way on this simple power run. So good pull here out of Zinter, your right guard. He's going to do a good job getting out here, picking up the edge defender. I'd like to see Hinton get a little bit of a better block here. Right, it's not Hinton. Who am I looking at here? Actually, no, everyone does their job here. Everyone does their job. I guess Hibner, 88. I think that's Hibner here. Yeah. Hibner could have done a little bit better job, but he has a pretty difficult job as a tight end to pick up that block. It's not really a double team. And I think that's what I wanted to highlight here as well. You want Myles Hinton to be helping out here. I don't know why Myles Hinton's going over here. They're kind of triple teaming right here on this nose tackle, where I think it's supposed to be a double team here, Myles Hinton and the tight end, and then Hinton releases to the second level. Then you have Bredesen coming through. That's what I think this play should be doing. But if you watch your right tackle here, where's he going, right? Why are you going over here? Hinton should be helping out his tight end. That's a tough assignment for a tight end. And then this is the natural progression, right? Find the first guy that comes through this hole, and then Bredesen will pick up the second guy. So I think that's where the play design is supposed to go. I don't see the benefit of Hinton hopping on the nose tackle here when you already have two guys dedicated to him, right? That seems wrong, and you're setting up your tight end in a really tough spot. Give him credit, though. I think Hibner still does a good job one-on-one against a D end in a tough alignment. I think he does an admirable job. And it's a good job from Bredesen finding that hole and able to pick up a good block there on the first defender he sees. So good job there for Blake Corum on working through that initial contact and getting in the end zone. P. Maximus, another question here. Do I think that Wallace has solidified our CB2 position by now? We'll see. I expect when we get Will Johnson back, I expect to still see a little bit of rotation and see what Keyshawn Wallace and Keyshawn Harris and Josh Wallace. I think they're battling out for that CB2 position. I think both Harris and Wallace have done admirably, and they've both had their moments. So I don't think that position is as solidified right now as some may think. Okay, moving on. 2nd and 10. Again, Jalen Harrell, right? Just getting things done quietly, right? He's always doing things quietly here on the pass rush. Again, I think it's a combination of maybe getting a little bit stronger, because I think he actually lost weight in the offseason. And again, this is the one thing where last year I think we saw Jalen Harrell be able to get to the quarterback with, I wouldn't say elite pass rush ability, but he was still able to get to the quarterback. And this is probably something similar, right? Like, I don't think against non-Bowling Green teams will we see this all year, but it's possibly still taking a step up, right? And this is, I think, just what he brings is a level of knowledge, right? He's sort of that veteran now who maybe is a little bit limited athletically, but he's still doing everything about as well as you can here. So he's again not doing anything special, but no wasted movement here, right? No wasted movement. Little fake inside move here, just a little head fake here, and then he's getting around to the outside. And then when he gets there, he recognizes, hey, I'm not going to be able to lay a hit on him, but get your arm out, right? Get your arm out and reach for the ball. If you're not going to be able to wrap him up, reach for the ball, and he times it excellently. So give him a lot of credit, right? He had at least a small role in the Chris Jenkins interception. He obviously has the key play in getting this turnover as well. So give him a lot of credit. I feel like, again, he's one of the most underrated guys on the defense, and he continually gosh, that's choppy. I don't know why I slowed this clip down. But yeah, he continually just makes plays. So give him a lot of credit here for timing this up really well. I think that ball is definitely out and just gets pushed instead of controlled and thrown. So I think it was a good call from the refs to let it be a fumble. One of the biggest gripes I have, or I think things that refs are quick to do, is, oh, that's incomplete pass. Let the play go on, right? You can always say it's incomplete pass later. It's a lot harder to say, oh, no, it was actually a fumble. Who recovered it, right? So, yeah, exactly what John says here. John Schultz, welcome back. He says, Harrell's been a pleasant surprise this year, most consistent DN so far. And he's one of the players, right, where some people are like, how much can we take from non-conference play? How much can we actually glean from those games into conference play? And that is always a big question across both offense and defense. But it's players like him, right, where we know what Harrell has brought, where he's always pretty sound as a player, always pretty like set to his assignment. Think of the play that he had on the tight end against Ohio State on the 4th and 2, right, where the tight end goes out to block and then slips out for a pass. Jalen Harrell was there, right? He plays exceptional, sound football technique, but limited somewhat athletically, right? I feel like that's been the profile. But he's doing things here that, you'd expect Braden McGregor to maybe be a little bit more loud. You'd expect Derek Moore to have these sort of plays. And it's Jalen Harrell getting in the face of the quarterback on the screen pass. Jalen Harrell hitting the quarterback's arm and creating a turnover. So it's these things that I think are really impressive from him. And if he can continue to show that in conference play, then it's maybe like, oh, we took a step up this offseason where it's still, jury's still out because it's Bowling Green. But he's showing a lot of the signs where it's like, now he's a player I'm going to be watching pretty closely to see if that uptick continues. So an excellent job from him. Let's see anything else really to call out in this play. I mean, you got Rayshon Benny, Mason Graham. It's relatively good pass protection outside of Harrell. So nothing really to do there. I mean, Barrett's there to go get the ball. So good job on him, right? When you see the ball, jump on it and assume that ball is free, right? And if they say it's an incomplete pass, whatever, but leave no doubt. So good on the veteran Barrett for jumping on that quickly as well. Antoine Johnson, I think it's imperative Michigan lock down Kurt Campbell. I like him as a play caller. Teams will come knocking at the door for him. I think he's a low-key star. You can say that about so many Michigan assistants. I don't disagree with you, though. Our 4 backup QBs have attempted a total of 4 passes, completing 1. Maybe I'll talk about that at the end of this. How can we find a backup if we don't let them pass? That's my biggest gripe. All right, I'll go in on this maybe at the end of the sequence, but I wholeheartedly agree. What's the point in bringing in your backup quarterback if you're not trying to find who is your best backup quarterback? I feel like Michigan, out of everything they did in the non-conference, that's the most confusing and maybe the biggest impact of not having Harbaugh is that level of control to figure out that backup quarterback. Totally agree. Regarding Harrell, he also seems to have a great motor. Yeah, dude never gives up, never quits. I love how Barrett pushes the ref out of the way for that fumble. Yeah, I noticed that too. He's like, excuse me, ref. I need to get I need to get this ball. That's funny. Yep. Leave no doubt. All right, let's move on. What do we got here? 1st and 10. Little handoff. Again, this is just everyone eating, right? And this is something where I don't really care who. I want to be careful in how I say this. I don't care who Michigan faces. I think they're just going to eat on the defensive line. They win so many battles. And I'll say this, Mason Graham has somewhat of a smaller injury. So he's out for at least 1 game. I think the staff thinks it's going to be 2. So being without Mason Graham is a big problem, right? But the depth, you still have Rayshon Benny, you still have Cam Good. You have guys who can fill that role. So I'm not overly concerned. But when Michigan is full strength at defensive line, especially the interior, just good luck, man. Like, I don't know how anyone expects anything but destruction there. So what happens on this play? Well, not a lot of good things for Bowling Green. All right. What do we have? Let's start at the top of the line of scrimmage and go down. All right. Switch to my pencil here. Jalen Harrell, he has the edge, right? So you set the edge, get your hip into this edgemost lineman and be ready for anything that comes your way, right? Any of these pullers, your job, don't let anything get outside and condense this hole. Make sure this is a mess and make sure nothing gets to the outside of you. That's his job. So let's watch Jalen Harrell here. Creeps down. I like what he does here where he could just stay where he is right now, but because there's additional gaps here, right? 2 things here. It's harder for him to see what's happening in the backfield, right? It's harder for him to get a glimpse of what's happening back here. And also, if we can shift our eyes now to Chris Jenkins, look how Chris Jenkins handles this tackle. Or is that a tight end? Did they really? No. Yeah, they put a tight end on him one-on-one. That poor tight end, right? So look at how Chris Jenkins is displacing this tight end into the backfield, right? So as a result of this, it's a good play from Jenkins to, you don't have to stay right here, right? There's no one for him to put his hip into. If he continues down this line, then he's given a lot of space for his running back and for the running back and any of these blockers to continue around the outside. So he's shifting sort of his responsibility here to where the edge is, right? This is the new edge. Even though this is where the line of scrimmage was, this is the new edge that he has to set. So he does a good job reacting to that good job that Chris Jenkins is doing and taking on that block. Boom. Take on 64. Just don't let anything outside of you, right? And beyond that, it's just good flow from Junior Colson, right? Junior Colson's here. I mean, Chris Jenkins ultimately makes first contact, but good tracking here from Junior Colson, finding that hole. And Chris Jenkins just follows his eyes, disengages with the tight end, and Junior Colson is there as well. Other highlights to call out, there's nothing possible for this running back to like cut back this way because of Kenneth Grant. Kenneth Grant just completely olays this block, just absolutely shucks by him and takes on number 10. So number 10 was another potential puller, right? But when you have a Kenneth Grant in front of you, right, you can't really continue. You need to kind of stop that gap. So that stops one more additional puller from getting to the play side. And that allows your free-flowing linebacker in Junior Colson and no one else to account for Chris Jenkins. So this is, again, I could have clipped any number of the run plays that went nowhere. This is just what Bowling Green had to deal with all game long. John with a question here before we move on to the next one. How will they distribute those Graham snaps when he's out? More snaps for starters like Jenkins and Grant, or rotation guys like Good and Benny? I think more likely than not, you're going to see Rayshon Benny get a good uptick in snaps. I think you will see more snaps out of Good as well. So I think in the aggregate, I think you will see more snaps for Grant. But I think Benny is who you'll see the most uptick in snaps, and then a little bit more snaps for everyone else just to account for that. And we'll see. Maybe they'll go more for like a more traditional 4-down lineman, right? With 2 edge players and 2, like have a Kenneth Grant and just Chris Jenkins, and then have like a Derek Moore and a Jalen Harrell or something like that. So we'll see. I think it's going to be a little bit of a shift. I'm not overly concerned, but I don't think it's going to be one guy who like steps into that Mason Graham role. To me, I think it's going to be a little bit here, a little bit there. P. Maximus, another question. Are you a little surprised Loveland has made more of? Are you a little surprised that Loveland has made more of an impact? There's talk. Oh, I think that is meant to be has not made more of an impact. There's talk he's second best tight end behind the Georgia tight end. I think that's fair. He's not like the focus. I think a lot of people weren't expecting Roman Wilson to be leading the Big Ten in touchdown receptions, right? So I think that's taken some of the limelight away from Colson Loveland. I still think Loveland is good and will have an excellent year. So remember, I feel like at this point last year, Blake Corum didn't have a 100-yard rushing game, right? And then he became the Heisman favorite. So it's still early, even though it's not conference play. Some guys are going to flash and really show, and then maybe they'll cool off a little bit. Some guys will take a little bit of time to heat up. So a little surprised, yeah. I'd say a little surprised, but it's not because there's a lack of production. It's just that production is solely been pretty much Roman Wilson from a scoring perspective. But Colson Loveland has done everything that I have expected him to, outside of just like being a red zone threat or something like that. And I think he still will be. I just don't think the opportunities have come his way yet. So I'm not concerned yet, but maybe a little shocked. I think that's fair. This run I wanted to put in here just because this is maybe even more so than the first run. This is the level of processing power out of Blake Corum that I expected. And what do I mean by processing power? It's a level of comfort of him setting up defenders and then making one additional move to pick up the maximum of yardage on any given play. So what do we got here? This is just what, an outside zone run, no one pulling, no one doing anything fancy. Bowling Green's slant, I think, helps Michigan in this play especially. Really good processing from the front end of this play, especially from Ladarius Henderson, who's in at this point, Keegan, and Trent Jones. So the play here is double this defensive end. Henderson releases out towards a linebacker, and Trent Jones releases out to a linebacker. So at this point, everything's fine, right? And they're trying to ID, and when I say they, I mean Henderson and Trent Jones are trying to ID which of these guys to take, right? They're both coming up to the line of scrimmage, and it's not easy. It's not easy, right? Because they're doing a little bit of a twist. 23 is attacking the inside here. They have looping on the outside of the middle linebacker. So it's not an easy job for these two linebackers releasing to the second level. It's a really good decision here to recognize, especially Trent Jones, to recognize, hey, this guy's probably going to be Henderson's job, and I'll pick up this guy. So they do a really good job of handing that off appropriately and picking that up. And Blake Corum does a really good job reading that. Now, the other aspect of this, let's see other blocks. You would like to see Bredesen do a little bit better job on the bottom here, picking up this. Roman Wilson maybe could do a little bit better job getting out to that safety. Actually does a pretty good job. So nothing terrible out of him. For wide receivers on a quicker developing run play like this, it's more just get in the way, affect his path. And I don't hate the pathing here for Blake Corum. Now, I think he's reading this the right way, where he initially wants to go right here, right? But I think there's a couple things that he's processing. He's seen this. He's seen the butt of Keegan pushing this guy this way. The head of Henderson's right here. Trent Jones is out here. He probably sees this guy, maybe sees this guy. So there's two bodies coming this way. And he makes his cut at such a good time, right? Such a good time right here. Boom, where number 5 is already committed, right? He's hoping maybe this backside guy will commit over here as well. But he finds this hole really well and then puts on one little additional move right here to get that guy, that safety, not able to get a clean tackle on him as well. So again, he's maximizing his yards. Would like to see a little bit better job blocking. I think this is Tyler Morris. No, I think that's Cornelius Johnson. Yeah, put a body on him, you know? And that's the thing where that's the right cut, and you got to get that block if you're Cornelius Johnson. Think if Cornelius Johnson can just lay this guy out, right? Just put a body on him. Then you have Blake Corum making a move on the defensive back that fell off of him, right? And maybe you break it. Probably not, because you have this guy coming off of the block on Trent Jones, but give your guy a shot, right? So that's another thing that I want to continue to see is the wide receiver blocking continue to improve. I think it has improved this game especially, but compared to the first two games, it's much better, but it's still not great, not to the level it was last year. But yeah, Blake Corum looks much better this week, much more decisive and just quicker in his decision-making and his cuts. Looks like the Blake Corum that we all know and love. It's exactly what John said. That run looked like a lot like Blake 22 run. Absolutely. Antoine back to defense here. Cam has been playing very good. Him and Kenneth been getting a lot of push. So much the quarterback can't even step up. They're crushing the pocket. Yeah. Kenneth Grant, I think, is a year ahead of where I expected him to be already. And Cam good. I feel like he was extremely quiet, right? Coming into the year, I don't think there was that much chatter about him. He's been very serviceable, if not above average. So really good for him. Maybe I just didn't notice the last year so far. They seem to be using a 6-0 line a lot last year. It makes me wonder if they're trying to keep guys happy. That's a great question, John. I don't know the number of snaps. Probably go through and find that somewhere. How many snaps that, especially Trent Jones. Well, he came in a little bit, but yeah, because he had Joel Honigford. Yeah, I'd be curious to see how many sets they've used a sixth offensive line this year compared to previous years. It does seem like they're doing it quite a bit this year, and that could be something where they're trying to keep guys happy. It could also be a thing where they just feel very confident having that number of linemen, and good luck, right? I think that's also fair. I also want Michigan to release Donovan on more deeper routes out of the backfield, not just hitch routes. It's routes that make you easy to defend. It'll put more pressure on linebackers to cover. Still feel like he's like a weapon. It kind of feels like to me they're treating him kind of like JJ McCarthy's legs, where they understand what they have there. They maybe just don't want to unleash a lot of the more unique sets and more things they have planned for him. I think that's coming. I think it's coming. Rod Moore's injury info or lack thereof reminds me of Nikai Hill-Green last year. Never saw the field. What are they hiding? Yeah, I'm not sure. Honestly, I don't know. I'm not going to speak to that. I honestly don't have the info, so I couldn't tell you if I wanted to. I do agree. It kind of feels like a little shaky. But with that in mind, it's nice to see Quentin Johnson make plays. It's nice to see Keon Sabb step up. So I agree. It does feel like that, but I have no info to corroborate or deny any of that. So this is, I think, back to some of the talk we had earlier, right? The Antoine saying that some of these passes feel forced, and how much is that on the, in the locker room and things like that? Because this is an ill-advised throw, right? In 90% of the scenarios, you wouldn't advise this throw. And really, I think I have a better view of this, but Roman Wilson, again, is the more open option here, right? If I scroll back here and pause it right there, right? Who has more space on this throw? If you throw this here, right, or leading Roman Wilson wide open, easy touchdown. This is not easy touchdown. So we'll see. Again, I'm not in the locker room. I don't know why he's throwing that. I do feel like there's some of all the rumors and stuff that I've heard, trying to get Cornelius Johnson in the end zone, make everybody happy, get more like touches in that regard. That's the one that I'll believe in the most of anything. So good on Cornelius Johnson here for pulling that in, right? Not an easy catch to make. But yeah, this play, honestly, so if I'm JJ McCarthy, right? Because this is a flea flicker, right? So flea flicker, who's the key guy on the flea flicker? It's this guy. This is the guy, and also maybe secondarily him. Because especially with the route that Roman Wilson's running, boom, right? He's got a lot more field. And this is the guy who would be able to respond to a pass up here rather than this guy. This guy's an impossible job, right? Because on this sort of deeper post route here, look at all this field that this guy has to catch up on a 4-2 guy and Roman Wilson. That's not going to happen. So I feel like that's where the eyes should be. And it seems like that's where the eyes are, right? Right now, if JJ McCarthy is looking and reading at this guy, especially with him looking this way, right? Like, I don't know. I'm just throwing this out here towards this ref and thinking that Roman Wilson is going to be open. And he is. He is. So I don't know. At the point of decision of throwing, especially with the initial movement of number 5 there, it is kind of hard to tell, like, is number 7 in better position versus number 1 here, right? But with the overall route trajectory here and the initial movement of this guy up before bailing back, Roman Wilson just seems like the safer throw here. And I think it totally was from the other angle, right? But maybe that's hard for the quarterback to tell that depth. So it works out, right? Give credit where credit is due. Johnson comes down with that, finds a way to catch the ball. But yeah, this is, to me, this is JJ McCarthy forcing a pass. And it's about as unhappy as you can feel on a passing touchdown that you can, right? Because how replicable is that, right? You don't want your quarterback making that decision when you have another wide receiver that wide open. You just don't. It's inherently not a good decision, and you don't want your quarterback making that same read in general. I think Johnson, okay, let me see here. Oh, this is fair too from John. John says, I think Johnson or Wilson could have made the catch look easy if JJ put more air under the ball. That's true. That's true. It was a little bit underthrown, so that's fair. Antoine says credit Cornelius for not giving up on the play. He has to learn it's not about him. It's about winning. Some games just going to be like that, allowing JJ to just operate more conducive. That's it. Again, patience, right? And that's kind of it with like Donovan Edwards as well. Like Corum has gotten most of the love, right? Most of the running. You'll have your time. So yeah, let's see. There's Brian is mentioning the footwork here. Is he not stepping into the throw as much? Yeah, he doesn't step into it as much. He opens up a little bit. So yeah, the ball is a little like flighty, right? So could be better thrown for sure. But overall, for me, like there are little things about like technique and things to improve on and like location of the ball, but I'm more about like decisions, right? Like what are you deciding to do with it? So like yes, there's footwork there, but like you can have the perfect technique, but if you're not deciding to throw it at the right guy or at the best location, you're not setting yourself up for success, regardless of how good your throwing technique is, right? So to me, yes, that's very important, but it's still secondary there. Someone, Maximus, said 44. Where's Bredesen? Bredesen struggling to hold his block there. Yeah, Bredesen. Who is that guy that he's blocking? Is that like a defensive end there? I'll give Bredesen some credit here. It's not easy on a pass rushing D end or linebacker type to hold that block. I think he's doing admirably. I don't think it's terrible. I agree. He's not owning the block, but I think that's about what I'd expect out of Bredesen there. All right, 2nd and 9 here, 31-6. What do we have here? Oh, this is one where Mason Graham and Braden McGregor just eat this guy's lunch. All right, let's see. Are you making fun of me, Mark? I don't know if he's an edge rusher or a linebacker. All right, he could be either one of those guys. I don't have the Bowling Green roster downloaded into my brain. Okay, what did I want to see on this play? I always like cut these plays on like Saturday or Sunday, and then I'm just like, I have to remind myself what I'm looking at here. This is kind of a crazy play from both Ernest Hausman, Mason Graham, and Braden McGregor. So it seems like there's some sort of stunt with the linebackers. So let's look at the linebackers first, because you have Ernest Hausman just like crossing here, and Junior Colson looks like he's doing some sort of stunt around the right side if you watch their movement here. So it seems like Hausman is like on a blitz. He's just like firing out, and Hausman is like working his way all the way through the line of scrimmage here, just absolutely mauling his way through. And it's good play side. So really good job from Braden McGregor on the bottom of the line here. Again, outside contain, right? Get to the outside of this right tackle. Do not let anything outside of you. Set that edge, keep that outside arm free, and make sure nothing gets out there. And that's what he does. So really good job, Braden McGregor. Good technique, good sound football. And the rest is just Mason Graham doing Mason Graham things. All right. He takes on the center and works his way through. Good handwork right there, good body positioning, and he's just strong, man. He keeps the feet moving, able to reach into the backfield and get the assist there. So again, this is a good play. And I don't know. It's a good question, Mark. Do you notice when Graham goes out of the game? I'm not sure. We'll see if it's this play. I'm not 100% sure though. Good looks great on that one. I don't think Good's here. What is his injury? There was one rumor that Kenneth Grant had a hand injury. It seems like it might be a hand injury for Mason Graham. I'm not sure. It seems very minor. But something that, so like, it doesn't seem like a leg injury is what I'm getting at. But I'm not sure. McGregor does better setting the edge in the play where we saw the other night where he was Olayed. Yeah, great point. I think that was, I don't know, Was that this week, John, or was that last week? I'm not 100% sure. But you're right. That was the main difference between him and like Derek Moore and especially Jalen Harrell was setting that edge appropriately. And Bray McGregor does a much better job. Did he get stepped on there? Let's see. I don't know. I don't know if we have a good angle here. Yeah, I don't really see him. No. Maybe, let me see if I can extend this and see if he's like favoring anything. Yeah, I don't know. That's him getting up. It seems like that's not the play. This is him getting up. Seems like nothing's going on with him. Seems like he's all right. So it might not be that play. Can you talk about your opinion on the tackle battle? Larry, if you're on the board, if you're on the Michigan.rivals.com board, I had a thread where I had like a 13-minute video last week, earlier this week, talking about that topic. It's like 13 minutes. If you're not a member of the board, shoot me a message on Twitter or something, and I talked through all of that. So I won't talk through all of it. Maybe I'll hint at the end of this video if I have a little bit of time. But I did talk through that. Okay, this is Alex Orji time, and I think this is also what I want to get here. Oh, I think Ladarius Henderson did a really good job in space blocking on this play. I think everyone did a really good job blocking on this play. I think this was exceptionally well done. And not an easy play to block because you look at the entire left side. The entire left side here is pretty much operating in space. They all have to get out here and get on blocks from various guys off the line of scrimmage. So it's not an easy job by all of the outside blockers. I really like the patience out of Ladarius Henderson. So this guy's flying up, right? You got both Keegan and Ladarius Henderson doubling here. So let's look at that double team first. Good job helping out there. Then Henderson's going to target backside, right? Boom. Get the backside guy, get out and get him. So he gets out, gets on that block, and good job there. Maybe could get called for holding, but he was kind of in the chest there. I don't think it's too terrible. And then let's see. Barner does a good job. Barner has maybe you could argue one of the tougher blocks here on the edge defender. He has to get a block on that edge defender the entire process here. This is a longer developing play, and he does a good job staying engaged with that. And then the last two guys, Colson Loveland and Khalil Mullings, also don't have the easiest jobs, right? You have to get all the way back out here and then a lead block out here between these two defensive backs. So these are both blocks in space that are pretty difficult to go and get. So it's a good job there, really, for all of them getting on their blocks, and that's an easy first down. So yeah, just a good job. I was disappointed we didn't get to see Orji throwing the ball. Was a little disappointed in that. Okay, this was probably the most frustrating. Actually, let me check. Brian Black, Mason Graham, broken thumb, surgery tomorrow, out a couple of weeks at least. That's a rumor confirmed by Chris. Okay. Yeah. Bummer. So we'll see. Hopefully he can have like a club on his hand, right, and get that going. Yeah, that's a bummer. So we'll see. That's why hopefully you have guys like Rayshawn Benny, Cam Good who can fill that gap. I mean, Mason Graham's a all-conference level player, so it's going to hurt. But thankfully you have, not your big-time conference games right away. So hopefully you can get back to that. Okay, so this was the main negative I saw out of Ladarius Henderson in this play, but upon further look, it's tough because they are sending just a ton of bodies here for Bowling Green. So it's not initially I was tough on Ladarius Henderson because I was like, oh, you got to pick up this linebacker that's flying by, right? But with all the bodies that Bowling Green is actually bringing on this, you have more bodies than what Michigan has to account for it, right? So How many is Bowling Green actually rushing here? You got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and you're only keeping in 5, right? Because I think Colson Loveland's also going. Yeah, so you're only keeping 5 in, and you're sending 6. So it's not a bad job, right? You see, take out this blitzer, and everyone else is accounted for, right? Everyone else here, you're forming this sort of pocket, right? If he shifts a little bit this way, that's still a clean pocket. So it's not, completely dead. The two things I think here, when you see Donovan Edwards running out here, if you see a free flowing linebacker like this, if you're Donovan Edwards heading out for a route, just pick him up, right? You can still continue on your route, but at least get a little chip on him. So I bet this is probably a coachable moment where if you see a free linebacker, right, chip him. I think this is also, I think earlier this week I said this game had a little bit of a reversion from JJ McCarthy and some of his mechanics, where, again, if you recognize this free-flowing guy, what is your thought? This is probably either safety or linebacker, right? Regardless, he's coming from the center of the field, right? He's coming from here. And if he's not getting picked up, then who are the first guys that you'll have available to you? These two guys, right? Right here. The space that these guys are vacating is the space to attack. X marks the spot right there, right? So you have options. You have safety valves right now, right? Instead of ducking out of the pocket right here, float one up, right? Give Colson Loveland a lot of room here. Float one up. You got Donovan Edwards. Let him go flying, right? So to me, I feel like JJ McCarthy last week or the week before, would have dumped this off. But I feel like, again, sometimes he tries to do too much. Tries to do a little bit too much. So are there things that Donovan Edwards could have done better to make this a more reasonable play for JJ McCarthy? Sure, absolutely. But then also in this scenario, it's 2nd and 5. Okay, you don't have to force anything here, right? You're out of the pocket, throw it away, right? I get it. Try to make a play. I don't. If you're not dumping off the pass, he's doing at least the right thing here, where he's trying to extend the play. But if you're trying to throw a first down here, this is the only spot that this pass can get picked when you're throwing to Colson Loveland. If you don't want to just throw it out of bounds, then throw it low, right? Why not throw it low to this area, right? You got to trust that your tight end will be able to get here, right? Throw it low, let your tight end go down for it, right? And then you're giving your guy a shot. Really, the only area here, the only guy who's going to catch a low throw like that is this guy. So I don't like the attempt there, right? I mean, excellent play from the defender, right? Again, you got to give credit to players when they make plays, and that's an exceptionally difficult interception to pull off. So good for that guy, right? He went up and got that. So give him some credit. But yeah, that I just don't understand. If you're trying to throw it to that guy, understand where's the defender, right? And just throw it low. If not, just throw it away. Again, it's 31-6, 2nd and 5, right? Got to be smarter than that. Let's see here. Yep, exactly, Mark. 2 safety valves not thrown to. Donovan should have at least tried to chip that linebacker running past him. You shouldn't let him have a free running start. Agree. Same thing, Mark. Yep. Colson gets the ball there, 20-yard gain at least. Yep. At least 7 yards. Donovan Edwards could have blocked. Dumping Tim was an easy dink and dunk play. At what point should I be concerned about injuries on this team? I know there's depth, but missing starting safeties, corners, DTs make me worry. I think it's fair to have like a little bit of worry, but then you have to remember in 2021, we were out Ronnie Bell, right? Our lead wide receiver. And I feel like there's been a number of injuries, right? Where we've been without Zinter for a little bit, been without Keegan. Mike Morris, when Blake Corum went out last year, how many people how many of us thought we're screwed against Ohio State and into the Big Ten championship, and the team figures it out. So in general, am I worried about some of the injuries? Yeah, for sure. But not like overly so, right? And I do think it's mainly because I think we've seen some of the cornerbacks step up, right? I think some of the cornerbacks have shown they can at least handle it, right? We'll see with better play, with better conference opponents. We'll see. We've seen guys like Keon Sabb step into that role and look pretty comfortable, serviceable, more than serviceable, I would say. And then on defensive tackle, I think you have pretty serviceable depth there with Cam Good, Rayshawn Benny, and you have enough ends that can shift down into more roles to make it work. So I think it comes down to positions, right? If JJ McCarthy goes down, that's something to be concerned about. If you're losing a Roman Wilson, then it's like, okay, can Cornelius Johnson and Tyler Morris step up? So there are certain positions where I think there are warranted worries about injuries. I'm not worried yet, but now you're just losing less depth, right? And depth is great, but it's tough. Yeah, Schoonmaker. Yeah, that's a great one. That's one I forgot, John. Thank you. Schoonmaker getting injured. So yeah. Maximus with diamond running his mouth this year about being this and that. Do you think he leaves? Still think he leaves early? For like the NFL, yeah. He's probably going to have a similar draft grade to Blake Corum regardless of what he does this year. I truly think so. We'll see, maybe. But I think the year is still young. I think he's going to have a great year regardless. I think there's still plenty of time for him. This want to give some love to Josiah Stewart here. We still got Mason Graham in the game at this point. Rayshawn Benny in on the defensive line. We haven't seen a whole lot of Josiah Stewart, right? But in this one, he just shows off his speed. And Michigan's doing I think you call this a scrape exchange, right? So they're sending Josiah Stewart just down the line of scrimmage here. His responsibility, take on this running back, right? So, this is a read option here. They're reading the play of the defensive end. If he goes flying down the line of scrimmage, then you keep. But also Michigan has Junior Colson coming off the line of scrimmage to replace the edge defender. So that's how you defend against this option specifically. Is you send this guy hell-bent down the line of scrimmage with responsibility on the running back, and then you replace your edge defender with your linebacker. He now has the responsibility of the traditional edge. So that's how Michigan's defending this, and they do a really good job. Now, in reality, should the quarterback have kept this? Your call, because you have a Junior Colson who's exceptionally talented staring down him as well. So that play was dead from the start. We haven't seen a whole lot of Josiah Stewart. I think his role is going to continue to increase. And that's another guy when you talk about without Mason Graham, maybe you do shift Chris Jenkins inside. He's already inside. But I think there were some plays this game where they shifted him outside of defensive end on certain passing downs and stuff. I don't think you'll see that as much. But you could have a Derek Moore or something and then bring in a Josiah Stewart as a, more of a rusher or something like that. Waller has been getting way more burn than I expected. Didn't hear about him at all in fall camp. It was all Jair Hill. Yeah. Yeah. They really do like Waller quite a bit. And I think that's another thing where it's just I think they think that one of those guys, Jair Hill or DJ Waller, could have a trajectory of a Will Johnson. I think they do think that. And later on in the year, only building that depth will help, right? This was one of the few negative runs. I think this was just a couple missed tackles that I was frustrated with. So at this point, you do still have a good number of your starters in, but not all of them. We're in the fourth quarter now. So who's to blame on this one? Well, I think Mason Graham got held like the Dickens here. We don't have a good angle here, but when you see a lineman pointed this way, like 53 is, and Mason Graham pointed this way, that usually means this right arm is holding the ever-living shit out of Mason Graham. So I do think he's getting held crazy there, and they probably should have called that. Beyond that, what are the other deficiencies on this play? I mean, that hold determines everything, right? Because you have a stunt on the defensive line where Mason Graham goes this way. You have a little loop out of Rayshon Benny. So there's nothing you can really expect out of Benny or Josiah Stewart backside. So he gets held, right? You're setting the edge here if you're Derek Moore. So you'd like him to do a little bit better job there fighting that and maybe getting a little bit better push. And this is one thing where it's tough to really set that edge appropriately, right? Where it's like, does Derek Moore get a little bit too far upfield here? Maybe it'd be a little bit better if he takes a little bit shallower route here instead of getting this far in the backfield, because it makes the job of 65 a little bit easier, right? You have this guy able to get out to the linebacker, 65 able to get out there. Because of how far upfield Derek Moore gets there, right? That creates this lane a little bit easier. Whereas if he's a little bit closer to the line of scrimmage, right? See, it's tough. I don't think he's in any position to win here because of how much space there is to the outside. So I think he kind of does his job forcing him back inside. So I'm not gonna harp on his positioning too hard. And then the rest is just a couple missed tackles. I think Barrett does a decent enough job beating his block here, just needs to do a little bit better job getting his head across. Again, that's a tough job. And then, yeah, you need to do a little bit better job as a cornerback trying to wrap up here. So again, young defensive backs just need to wrap up there, right? Use your arms. And then finally we got Stewart. Give credit to Stewart. He ran that down all the way from backside. And then McCarthy Page able to clean that up. So I think in general, Michigan has been pretty good on tackling. There's only been a couple plays, and I feel like I've called out each and every one of those plays where there was some poor tackling. So I feel like there's been a couple players, but I don't think it's like that big of an issue. I'm not overly concerned about that. Let me see here. Larry Johnson, Coach Clank, one of the best on staff. Not surprised. Secondary looks good. Yeah, he's phenomenal. One of the best hires I think Michigan has made in the past 5 years, you could argue. I do love Michigan's 3-4 look, but of course with teams running 3 wide, we don't get a chance to see it as much having Kenny, Mason, and Jenkins hard to beat. Yeah, well said. Tackle the defender in the hole does spring the back. Yeah, that holding on Mason Graham there, that opened that up. Michigan got to do a better job. Block destruction. Derek Moore could have been more violent on that edge. That's fair. Any idea how Amorian Walker plays into things at corner? Now, I do think his injury is a little bit longer. I think that is more of a like Nikai Hill-Green situation. I don't really expect him to come into play this year. I think they were hoping that he would be the wild card corner in the non-conference. And I think he'll probably be like fully healthy, maybe towards the tail end of the year. But at that point, he'll be relearning technique and getting strength back up. He practiced today. Okay, maybe I'm crazy, Larry. Maybe don't listen to me. I'm honestly not the guy who's clued in the same way that Josh and Trevor are. But I still don't see it. Maybe. But to me, Jair Hill and DJ Waller have a better chance at being that breakout corner than Amorian Walker, just because of the run they've gotten thus far and that they've been fully healthy. So that's my take on it. If Amorian Walker was going to be part of the discussion, he would have had to be part of these non-conference games healthy to make it work. Okay, who just made the comment? Antoine. Derek Moore could have been more violent on the edge here. There we go. There's violence on the edge, right? And then you got, man, who's 34? Yeah, that's Jaden Hood. Jaden Hood comes flying through. So Jaden Hood is a guy, man. I think Jaden Hood's going to be an excellent player here. I mean, he just absolutely blasts. Who is that? offensive, or is that a H-back? Yeah, just blast that H-back. So this is a good job. Good job from Derek Moore, right? He really accelerates into the backfield here. So I like to see that aggressiveness. Derek Moore really closes that out, right? Not a big gap here. So he really blows that up with destruction. And then Jaden Hood comes flying through here to clean this up, right? So really good job setting that edge. There is nowhere for this running back to go except right here behind his H-back. And you see a blurry Jaden Hood come flying down and absolutely destroy that. So good job by the two of them. They make that play. So, yeah, that's what you do with your backup opportunities, right? Jaden Hood is, maybe half a year away from receiving meaningful snaps, but when you come in flying like that, right, and just blow back an H-back, that shows a willingness, right? That shows destruction, and you're gonna get some more reps, whether it's on special teams or on cleanup defense, by showing that. Came flying in there. So that's cool, right? And that's, how much time is that left? 10 minutes in the fourth and a blowout. That's a guy who just wants to hit people, right? Remember, like, freshman year, Devin Bush was just absolutely destroying people on special teams. That's sort of the plays that, like, you look at and you kind of put in your mind bank where it's like, okay, he's a destructor. Like, he's flying in, he's throwing his body around. This is a guy to pay attention to for future years. So that's kind of what I see out of Jaden Hood with plays like that. This one, though, could have done a better job. All right. And I think this is on a couple players. Let me see if I have better view of this. We'll start on the side angle here. So what happened on this play? TJ Guy is the primary culprit. He needs to keep his outside arm free. So again, on plays like this, what's your job as 42, right? He's doing his job right here. This is what you need to do. Trust your linebackers to flow here, right? Trust your linebackers. I think it's Miles Pollard, Jaden Hood. Trust them to have these inside gaps, right? Your defensive linemen, you want them to hold up against these double teams that you have to free up your linebackers for these gaps, right? If you're TJ Guy, your responsibility, nothing to the outside of me, right? TJ Guy gets caught looking, right? What I mean by that, boom, he's looking inside. He's assuming this running back is going right here, and you're already done, right? Your responsibility is not here, right? If he goes here, then you should have help from your defensive line. Trust your defensive line. Trust your linebackers will be able to make the play. Your number one responsibility, keep that outside arm free. Keep your head to the outside shoulder of this lineman. Make sure nothing gets outside. He doesn't, right? So that's what springs this. Could Jaden Hood done a better job taking on this block right here, right? Taking on this block, taking him on and getting out to this? Yeah. And you could argue the same for these guys. You could argue the same for your safety. I think that's Caden Colasar. You could argue the same for them as well. But this all starts with TJ Guy. He at least needs to slow that up, make it difficult for them. I do think you're getting held pretty hard right here. I think that's a hold. Let's shift to the other view for this. Yeah, so Jane, you know what? I'll say this as well. Jaden Hood is getting held like crazy. This looks like a crazy hold. So I think there's a number of crazy holds going on in this play. Yeah, that's a nasty hold right there. So that definitely kept Hood from being able to react out there. There's another hold that's going on out here. And again, you can call holding on pretty much every play, but these are pretty egregious, especially that one. So, give credit to who's that? Was that DJ Waller running that one down? Or no, who is that? Who's number? I don't know who that is. How do I not know that number? Number 6, Michigan defense. How do I not know that? Sorry, you guys can yell at me. Braden Hillman. That's who that is. Okay. I don't feel as bad now. So, yeah. Everyone's getting held there. Braden Hillman. Is that really him? Yeah. Braden Hillman, number 6. Okay. All right. News to me. Didn't know he was playing. Because I think Miles Pollard is number 4. Let me confirm that. Or Micah Pollard, sorry. Micah Pollard is number 4. Yeah. Okay. All right, number 6. That's a freshman defensive back. They're getting in there. Okay. Okay, last play here. All right, and let's just end it with Rayshawn Benny, right? Hopefully we see a lot more of this next week. What am I saying? Last week. I need to go to bed. So Rayshawn Benny, right? Hasn't gotten as much love. Feel like he's had a quiet career here at Michigan. Now it's time to show up, right? Now it's time to show up. With no Mason Graham, it's time for these flashes to become the next iteration. So this is a good swim move, right? Really good job here from Rayshawn Benny, working past this left guard right here. Does a really good job getting his hands engaged first, right? He's controlling this engagement. That's kind of what I like to see out defensive linemen. How are they controlling it, right? Don't let the offensive lineman dictate your movement. Get your hands on him, right? He gets his hands on him first, then uses his momentum against him. See that little pull? Pulls him past, boom, little swim move, baby swim move. And then it's good technique. I like what he does after this hand movement. See how he kind of emphatically puts his right arm into the armpit here and pushes off. That push off, that sends the momentum of this lineman further away and gives him a little bit extra momentum into the backfield. So really good job from him. I like to see these sort of plays where you have guys just flying to the ball off the edge as well. So yeah, I mean, I like everyone getting in on this too, right? This is pride time, right? It's 31-6. You don't want to be on the field when you allow a touchdown, right? So you have everyone still rushing to get to the ball, continuing to do that when it's 2:14 left in the game. That's what we want to see from backups. So really good job. And that's all I got. Okay. Any additional questions? Anything you guys want to talk about? The tackle question. There was a question about, did Miles Hinton lose his job? I always thought that Ladarius Henderson was going to be one of the guys. I was surprised we didn't see him rotating earlier. So I think it's going to be Henderson's job to lose now. I'd be shocked if we didn't see Henderson starting at left tackle with Carson Barnhart at right tackle moving forward. Could be wrong. I don't actually know, but I think Henderson was a guy that Michigan maybe thought would be quicker, and maybe there was some learning of the playbook, because he only came in the summer when Hinton was around, I believe earlier, like in the spring. So sometimes it just takes time for those guys, right? And maybe they felt that there was a little bit more risk while Henderson was still getting up to speed. But yeah, I expected Ladarius Henderson to be the guy moving forward. I mean, he was an offensive lineman who was expected to go day 2 in the draft last year. So I don't think it's really anything against Hinton. I think Hinton has a higher upside. He's just raw still. I feel like he just still needs to go through a year of the Sharon Moore Academy, and then he'll be serviceable. Yeah, the question about Jimmy Rolder, I think he was just injured. I think they like him. I think Jaden Hood probably took advantage of that situation, right? And was able to maybe nose ahead on the depth chart as a result of that. But I do think Jimmy Rolder was out on injury and is still working back. Seems like defensive line coach doesn't teach enough hand violence. Sometimes Michigan allows themselves to be blocked easy. You should teach your D-line players to be offended when being touched. I mean, look at Kenneth Grant, man. Kenneth Grant is a monster, and I feel like you never see guys get into his chest. I feel like he's always controlling the engagement. Can Hinton or Jones catch at all when extra? It's a good question. So the rules, as far as I know it, if there's only the outermost edge player on the offense on the line of scrimmage is I need to look up the rules for this, because there are certain like number things as well, right? Like you have to be wearing a certain number on the line of scrimmage as well to be eligible for a pass. So that's a good question, Mark. I need to double check that. I don't want to misspeak because I'm not as well versed. But that's why in certain scenarios, a ref will say, like, this player has changed his jersey to 87 or something, right? And that's to denote that now this player is wearing an eligible number. The ref is required to say that, and Michigan is, and a team is required to let the officials know when a player has changed a jersey to denote eligibility as well. So that's part of it. And then there's alignment, right? Only a certain number of players can be on the line of scrimmage. The endmost offensive player on the line of scrimmage is eligible. The second most, or the second interior one isn't. Stuff like that. So there's a lot. The position. Okay. The position can they? So you were asking, can they catch it all when extra? I don't know, man. I don't know. You throw a ball at them, see if they can catch. If I were to guess, I feel like feels like Trent Jones can catch. I'm not sure though. That's a good question though. I don't know if they can. Someone should just start throwing balls at them after a game. Don't do this. Don't take this advice, and just see if they can catch it. Yeah, please don't do that. But okay. All right, John, thank you for the kind words. I love doing these. Hopefully we'll be back. I should be back next week for the first conference games against Rutgers. So yeah, throw a like on the video, guys, if you like the series. Yeah, leave any comments afterwards. If you're watching this afterwards, you made it this far, you're awesome on the rewatch. But yeah, hopefully we'll have Trevor back here next week. I know he was out sick, recovering this week. So hopefully he'll be back to join. I always love his commentary as well, but I appreciate all you guys in the comments adding your thoughts and comments as well. It helps, right? We're all here to learn, all here to discuss, and having additional eyes and comments here really help. So I appreciate you guys tuning in and participating. It's really fun. And with that, yeah, what Antoine said, hit the like. Big Ten play coming up, as John said. It's going to be more fun. I always like when we get into conference play. I feel like there's always more to learn, and you can then glean more. It's like, oh, this is an actual opponent, an actual Big Ten guys who we can talk about. Okay. All right. Take care. Have a good night. Have a good week. Go Blue, and beat Rutgers. See you guys.